Hello, everybody. This is Quiz Access Chapter 5, Problem 6. But first, this one for me was a little bit tricky, but as I worked through it and reworked through it and wrote down some notes, I found it was actually fairly simple. Hopefully, I can help you figure it out as well. I think I've got it broken down into basically 7 steps. Step 1 and Step 2 and Step 3 have more to do with preparing information to solve for these problems. So first step is basically to read the information. That's where I always stumble, is missing out what's really asked in the questions. So Lopez Company reported the following current year data for its only product. The company uses a periodic inventory system, and its ending inventory consists of 330 units, 100 from each of the last 3 purchases. And we have a little diagram there with each purchase, including the beginning inventory, the dates, and costing for each purchase, and the total. What this question wants to know is the costing methods that we've learned, well, back up. So the ending inventory costs and the cost of goods sold for each of the costing methods we've discussed. So A being specific identification, B the weighted average, C FIFO or FIFO, however you want to say it, first in, first out, D last in, first out. And then finally, requirement E has more to do with the which one of those methods require, or not require, but generate the most net income. So step 2, I like to begin. So if this were an exam, I would begin by making some notes on a piece of paper, basically jotting down all the information from that little table here. And I've had pretty good success using Excel in my exams. Helps me save scratch paper during the exam. Plus, I can see a little bit clearer if my calculations are coming out clean. And so I've done that here, basically just transferring all the data. It seems like there's always been plenty of time to do a sample. Of course, this worksheet's a little more elaborate. In your exam, you could keep it pretty simple. So of course, here's all our beginning inventories, purchases, how many units beginning and each subsequent purchase after that, and then the costing for each one of those and our totals. And that's really all that's given us, is just available goods for sale right now. That's all we have from the chart. And so basically from that chart, we can determine, actually, let's back up really quick. Again, we need to remember, like I say, don't forget to read the problem. We know the ending inventory consists of 330 units, 110 in the last 3 purchases. So I basically created another table here, ending inventory, showing again the cost for our beginning inventory, and then each of the 4 purchases throughout the year. And we know there's 110 from the last 3 purchases is what we have left over. That totals 330. And I've basically transferred over the costing for each one of those. And so 110 times 290 equals 319, 110 times 320 equals 352, 110 times 340 equals 374. So the ending inventory costs, adding those up, equals $1,045. And so we can go right into and enter that as our ending inventory. So 10,045. And the cost of goods sold is easy to figure out from this point, because we know the cost of goods sold is going to be the difference between our ending inventory and the total cost of all the goods that we purchased that were available for sale. So 9,319 less 1,045 equals this number here, 8,274. 8,274, we can enter that, and there the specific identification is taken care of. The next one we want to work on is the weighted average, and that one again is quite simple. First, we need to determine the average cost for all the goods we purchased over the year. And really, we take our total cost for the year, 9,319, divided by the number of units we purchased, that 3,110. And that basically equals out to be $2.99.65 for some oddball number to be exact. And I found it kind of strange that this number wasn't rounded. It would always return me a bad number until I left the calculations exact and didn't even change that number. And so to find our ending inventory, we need to take the number of units we have left over, 330, at our average cost of 2.9964, and that gives you this 988.83. So if you're using a calculator or Excel, it'll figure that exactly. And so we type in this in our weighted average ending inventory, 988.83. Again, the cost of goods sold is just the difference between our ending inventory and basically our total purchases for the year. So 9,319 minus 988 will give us this 8,330 and 17 cents. And so those are fairly simple. The first in, first out, and last in, first out are basically the same idea, just one is the first in, first out is sequential, and the last in, first out is just the reverse of that. So to do the first in, first out, we need to know our inventory ending cost, and so we know we have 333 units again. And since we know it's first in, first out, we know that a bunch of goods were sold throughout the year. We're left with 330. So we know the last 330 is going to be taken out of this 360 right here. And so we know 330 will cost us 340 a piece. And so we can go 330 times 340 gives you an inventory ending of 1122 in the first out, or first in, first out costing method. So we can put that ending inventory here, 1,122. And the cost of goods sold is again just the difference between the ending inventory and the total cost of goods purchased for the year. And so 9,319 minus 1,122 equals 8,197. And you can figure this a couple different ways. This is probably the most simple. 8,197. But you can also kind of see, I like to break down just for my peace of mind to make sure it all adds up. And so we know our total number of goods sold. So I built this little cost of goods sold table from everything we know. We sold 2,780 units. And then basically you would know, okay, I know we bought 210, and just keep adding these up till you run out of inventory basically. So 210 at 240 is used up, 460 at 275 got used up, 1,100 at 290 got used up, 980 at 320 got used up. But that basically only left you 2,750. We know 30 units were taken out of this last 360 purchases. And you can see here, these amounts here total 2,780, matches up with their units sold. And that would leave this 330 in inventory. And so we know that all adds up, so it must be correct. A little trick while we're here, since our prices are increasing throughout the year, so our beginning inventory is 240. In March we bought it at 275. In July we bought it at 290. So the prices are increasing each time. And since that's the case, we know right off that the first in, first out method is going to generate the highest net income. And so we can actually come right here to requirement E and enter in the first in, first out. If prices were getting cheaper as the year went on, which they rarely do, then we know this last in, first out would generate the most net income. And that's because we're selling the units that have the most margin first. Because basically we're gonna resell these for the same costs throughout the year. But if our cost to purchase them are less, then we're going to use that number up. And so for the last in, first out, same idea. We know we have 330 left. However, instead of starting, we know 330 is going to be taking out of what's left from the beginning year's purchases. So 330 is greater than 210, so we know we've used all the 210 purchases. So 210 at 240, and that leaves 120 out of the next purchase at 275. So 120 here, 275. That leaves 330 in inventory. And again, you can work through it the other way too. So our ending inventory is $834. And the cost of goods sold will simply again be the difference between our total purchase price and our ending inventory. So 9,319 less 834 equals $8,485. And then finally, another trick, I just want to go through and make sure that everything is accurate. $1,045, 8274. And so whenever your cost of goods sold is the lowest, whatever one has these lowest price, that's going to be where your most net income is going to come from, that method right there. And so our cost is only $8,197. We know our average is going to fall in between the first in, first out and last in, first out. So that's correct. So we should be in good shape. And that's how you do that. Thank you.